Do the best conversations with yourself happen on empty roads? Have you ever noticed that some of the best conversations you'll ever have don't involve another person at all? They happen when you're alone. No phone, no notifications, no distractions. Just you, your thoughts, and an empty road stretching out in front of you. That's exactly what I've been thinking about over the last few days. I'm recording this from Banchory after taking a little trip somewhere I've never really explored before. There wasn't a huge reason for coming here. I just felt like I needed to get away for a couple of days, drive somewhere new, and spend some time thinking. And honestly, I think I needed it more than I realized. One thing I've noticed recently is just how noisy life has become. Even when we're alone, we're rarely actually alone. There's always a podcast playing, music in the background, videos, social media, emails, messages. There's always something trying to fill every spare second. Somewhere along the way, we've almost become afraid of silence. I've definitely been guilty of it. Sometimes I catch myself reaching for my phone without even thinking about it. Not because I need it, just because I've become used to filling every quiet moment. Driving changes that, especially when the roads are quiet. There's something strangely peaceful about watching the countryside roll past while your brain slowly starts unpacking thoughts you've been too busy to notice. At first, your mind races. You think about work, tomorrow, next week, things you forgot to do, random conversations, shopping lists. But after a while, something changes. Your thoughts slow down, the noise fades, and suddenly you're having conversations with yourself that probably should have happened weeks ago. This week, I've been thinking a lot about motivation and discipline. They're words that get thrown around all the time online. Everyone talks about motivation. Everyone wants more motivation. But the older I get, the less I think motivation is the answer. Motivation is great when it shows up. The problem is, it doesn't always show up. Discipline usually does. Discipline gets you moving when motivation is still asleep. I've realized that most of the things I'm proud of today didn't happen because I felt like doing them. They happened because I did them anyway. Building Unleash Your Storm, going to the gym, recording podcasts, writing speeches, learning new skills. None of those happen because I wake up every morning feeling inspired. Some mornings I do, some mornings I don't. But this work still has to happen. One challenge I've been struggling with recently is something I think a lot of people can relate to. There just aren't enough hours in the day, or at least that's how it feels. I work, I train, I create content. I'm building something that means a lot to me. Then there's everyday life on top of that. Sometimes it feels like no matter how organized I become, there's always another job waiting, another idea, another project, another responsibility. For a while, I thought the answer was simply to work harder, wake up earlier, sleep less, push more, do more, keep moving. But recently I've started questioning that, because if you're always rushing, when do you actually get to enjoy the life you're working so hard to build? That's a question I've generally been asking myself this week. I don't think I'm looking for less ambition. Far from it. I still have huge goals, massive dreams. I still want to build something meaningful. I still want financial freedom. I still want to create work that genuinely helps people. None of that has changed. What I'm trying to work out is whether it's possible to chase big dreams without constantly feeling like you're behind. I don't know the answer yet. Maybe that's something I'll spend years figuring out. One of the reasons I decided to drive away for a few days was because I wanted to experience the journey itself. Normally, when we travel, we're trying to get somewhere. The destination becomes everything. The drive becomes something to get through. But this time I tried looking at it differently. I wasn't racing anywhere. I wasn't checking the clock every 5 minutes. I just drove. Stopped where I wanted, walked around places I'd never seen before, took photographs, looked around, sat quietly. Sometimes I think we need more days like that. It reminded me of something that probably applies to life as well. We're obsessed with destinations. When I get that job, when I lose that weight, when I earn that money, when I retire, when I move house, when I find the right relationship. We convince ourselves that happiness is waiting at the next destination. But what if it isn't? What if happiness has been quietly sitting beside us for the entire journey? Looking back over my own life, some of the biggest moments weren't planned. They weren't goals I'd spent years chasing. They were conversations, unexpected opportunities, random decisions, places I never intended to visit, people I never expected to meet. The memories that stay with us usually happened between the destinations, not at the finish line. I've also realized something else. The finish line keeps moving. Every time you reach one goal, another appears, and then another, and then another. If happiness depends entirely on reaching the next milestone, you'll spend your entire life waiting. That's a scary thought, because life isn't waiting. It's happening right now, while you're driving, while you're walking, while you're having coffee, while you're laughing with friends, while you're sitting in silence. Those moments count too. One thing empty roads seem to give me is perspective. Problems that felt enormous a few hours earlier suddenly seem manageable. Ideas become clearer. Priorities become simpler. I stop trying to solve my whole life in one afternoon. Instead, I just focus on the next step. Maybe that's all any of us really need. Not the entire map, just the next corner. I've often wondered why so many people say they get their best ideas while driving. Maybe it's because your hands are busy enough to stop you reaching for your phone, but your mind is finally free enough to wander. There's no pressure to think, so the important thoughts quietly arrive on their own. I wish I created more space for that in everyday life. Something else I've been asking myself recently is whether productivity has become an identity. Do we sometimes feel guilty simply because we're resting? If we sit down for an hour, do we immediately feel like we should be doing something? Answering emails, cleaning, working, learning, improving ourselves. Even relaxation has become another task. It just doesn't feel healthy. I'm slowly learning that rest isn't the opposite of progress. Sometimes rest creates progress. The answers don't always appear while you're working. Sometimes they appear while you're walking through a forest or watching the rain or driving down an empty road with nowhere you urgently need to be. I don't think younger me would have understood that. Years ago, I probably would have thought taking 2 days away was wasting time. Now I think it might actually save time because clarity stops you wasting energy chasing things that don't really matter. The truth is, I'm still figuring this out. I'm not recording this because I found some perfect balance. I haven't. Some weeks I still overwork. Some weeks I still feel guilty for slowing down. Some weeks I still wonder whether I'm doing enough. Maybe that's part of building something meaningful. Maybe uncertainty doesn't disappear. Maybe we simply become more comfortable walking alongside it. As I head home from Banchory, I'll probably return to exactly the same projects, the same goals, the same workload, but something feels slightly different. Not because my circumstances changed, because my perspective did. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes seeing your life differently changes everything, even if nothing around you changes at all. If you're listening to this while driving, maybe leave the radio off for a while. If you're walking somewhere, maybe leave your headphones in your pocket and see what happens. See where your own thoughts take you. You might be surprised by the conversations waiting to happen. If there's one thing I'd love you to remember from today's episode, it's this. Life isn't simply about arriving. It's about noticing where you are while you're traveling. The destinations matter, goals matter, dreams matter, but they aren't the whole story. The road matters too. Because one day you'll realize that the journey wasn't taking you somewhere. The journey was quietly becoming your life all along. So maybe the best conversations with yourself really do happen on empty roads. Thank you for listening.